Thanks for joining for this series that I'm calling Scars and Wisdom. And this is a conversation space where we honor the truth of what we've lived through and the wisdom that now lives in us because of it. And today I'm so excited to be talking with Michelle Steiner. So, Michelle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let the world know what you're up to?
Sure. Sounds great, Karen. My name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband, Ron, our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. I am a paraeducator. I work in a school with students who have disabilities and some who don't. I am also a writer, a speaker, and a photographer. And I have a blog called Michelle's Mission where I write about my life with having a learning disability and feature my photography.
Wow. So inspiring. So much going on for you. I love all of the things that you're doing. So, why don't you talk to us because it's called Scars and Wisdom? We start with the scar. So, for you, what was that scar that really for a lot of people, breaks you open, I guess, is the feeling, right? Leaves that mark.
Right, exactly. I think my scar was definitely whenever I was diagnosed with having a learning disability in kindergarten. I think that was a real scar for me because I only had a lot of stress with academics, but it was also social for me as well. And in order for me to be able to be successful and to have the life that I have, that was something that I had to let go of. Yeah, that was definitely my scar.
So, you said that was kindergarten, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, take us back to what that felt like. You're in kindergarten, and there's so much that comes with needing to belong at that age. So, how did that manifest for you?
Well, I was my parents' first child, and I was an only child for 13 years, so I was used to being around a lot of adults. So it was already really difficult to socialize with a lot of my peers because they were pretty much around other kids, and I was around a lot of adults. So it was really difficult to do that. And it was also really hard to mask my disability. My teacher could see I was really struggling in the classroom. I definitely had trouble with dot to dot pages. I also had a lot of difficulty with tying my shoes. And I was really frustrated. I didn't mask that very well. And that actually turned out to be a good thing because my teacher noticed that and she recommended to my parents that I get tested for having a learning disability. And I can just remember, indeed, I do have one, and I had to repeat kindergarten the following year at a different school in our district, and I began to receive specialty services. And a lot of the scars came from I not only just being that only child for so many years and didn't really know how to socialize, but also having the disability really made me stand out. I went to a very small conservative school district where everybody knew each other. The community was really close knit, as long as you were one of them. And I was not one of them. They could tell that I really was different from the start. People didn't want to play with me. If I was a learning support, it was difficult too with my peers. I experienced bullying with them all throughout my years of school. A lot of my peers, they struggle more with reading and with writing and behavior issues. And some of them even didn't have a learning disability. They might have had autism or another disability, and they just didn't know what to do with them. So they just placed them in the room. And when I went into regular ed for classes with supports, with having the test read aloud to me and having extra time, everybody could see that I went to learning support to receive those services. And even when I was in the classroom and wasn't in with learning support, they could see that I was struggling and I really got labeled that outcast. And it got harder for me as I went throughout school. I can just remember the bullying really intensified with fitting in. Everybody just had their little group and I just didn't fit in with anybody. And one of the things I started to do is I went and I found a group right outside of our school district that had peers that were involved in a program. And it was an arts-based group. And I thought, okay, someone else likes doing these things that I do with writing. And that was just amazing because I could shed that layer that followed me of being that outcast since kindergarten. And that's to heal the scars a little bit and made it easier to go to school. And I also, once I transitioned out of that group, I found an adult writing group that we still meet 20 some years later to talk about our writing and other things. And those were really key things with that. Academically, it got a lot easier. I was in all regular ed classes except for math and learning support. And it just that got easier.
So much that you just said that I want to dig into a little bit more
Sure.
because this is a really important topic. I'm so glad that we're talking about this. I think this is one of those topics that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, right? And like grief and loss, I think we treat disabilities also with kind of that, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to keep everything at an arm's length. And so much of all of it is about just understanding what we really want, what a griever really wants, or what somebody with a disability really wants.
Right.
Like an understanding that we're all more like than we are different. We just, the details can look different, but at the core, we're all very similar. So, something you said that I wrote down because I think this is so important to highlight is that you were vocal. And it was because you were not masking the struggles that somebody else was able to see and pick up on that and then get you the help that you need. And that feels so pivotal because so often that's what we're doing. We're masking. We're masking the parts of us
Mhm.
that don't feel like makes us fit in. We're pushing those down. But had you done that, that would have stopped you from getting the help that you needed.
Exactly. And a lot of times, what they might see with some, especially females, is they might have somebody that they might get along with other people that might be more dominant in a group or other girls. And they somebody might do that work for them. They might have like the mother hen, or they can be really charming with that. And that just was not for me. And that was so important that it really worked out in my favor because people could see I was frustrated. My teachers saw that. In fact, they were worried I was going to develop learned helplessness, that they even put on one of my reports that they were really worried that I wasn't going to be able to want to do things on my own because I would get frustrated. And then I would be surprised whenever I did that. And they said, they put on a report, we really need to encourage Michelle to do things on her own. And, yeah, it really does that, and so many times people aren't diagnosed because they can mask a lot of those symptoms, and you learn how to compensate for that. And I can say, and sometimes as an adult, I may not always I get that privilege of who I wanna tell and who I don't wanna tell, so I can mask certain things, but it's difficult to be able to do that.
Yeah. And that's just, yeah, I've never thought about it in that way before, but
Mhm.
there's so many benefits to showing up as your true self and to
Yep,
taking off the mask. But I've never looked at
yep,
it through this lens before. But that's so true. Think about just even from a health perspective. Like as
mhm,
adults, if we're masking things that we're feeling in our bodies and something feels off and something doesn't feel right, we can't get the help we need if we're keeping those things, right, pushed down. And so
exactly.
that's just such a
Mhm.
good, I think, reminder for us that those things that we're feeling like we have to hide from the world or mask could be the thing that you need to show in order to get the help that you really need. So really profound share that you just had
Exactly.
there.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. Fitting in was obviously one of those real challenges that you experienced. I love that you talked about finding your people. And through the art community and through the writing community, it sounds like you found the people that you really felt like you belonged with, which is so vitally important. We're hardwired for belonging. And that goes back all the way to tribal days when if you didn't belong, if you didn't fit in, if you weren't accepted as part of the tribe, that could really mean life and death. And so it's so hardwired in our DNA, this sense of belonging and fitting in. Do you remember a time where you realized that, yes, finding your people was so important, but that you had to start to belong to yourself?
I think that whenever I did find my people, that's what gave me the courage to be myself. Because for years until I found them, I would read magazines like, oh, how to be popular. So I would try to do that blending in and was very unsuccessful. I would try to dress like everybody else, or I would try to get involved in activities that I knew maybe people that were more popular would do. And it wasn't, and they didn't work out because I wasn't meant to do all those things. And I was slowly losing who I was. But when I can remember, whenever I found my tribe of people that I really liked, I was getting dressed one morning for school and I thought, I'm going to just put this on. And I don't care if I'm popular for it or I'm not, or I don't care if this one likes it or doesn't like it. And it wasn't anything outrageous, but it was something that I liked and was appropriate to wear to school. And it was my style. And I started to really embrace that. And sometimes other people would be like, why do you have a dress on? Everybody else has pants on or shorts. But it was what I wanted to do.
Yes. And that's alignment, right? What you're talking
Mhm.
about is that feeling of when we feel aligned and we feel
Mhm.
misaligned, and we feel that in our bodies, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I think so many people can relate to what you just shared. Seeing a group, seeing a clique, and thinking that's who I need to be like, and putting on all the facades to do that. And then in your body, just knowing that's not it. That's not
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's just not good to do that. It's being who you are and finding out being comfortable with that as well. And I think that a lot of those years of not being accepted really has helped me to become the person who I am today. I can be with other people. I love to do things with other people, but I'm also content to do things myself as well.
Yeah. Yes. As an introvert, I totally get that. And I think for a long time, I thought because I'm an introvert, that means I don't like people. And so I put myself in this introvert box, right? Like it meant when we
Mhm.
think of introverts and we think of like these things, right? Like whenever we put a label on something, it comes with like preconceived ideas of what that means. And so for a long time, I'm like, I can't get into anything we have to sell because I'm an introvert. I can't go to this networking event that I want to be part of because I'm an introvert. And so I limited myself so much just because of that one label
Yep,
that I put on myself.
exactly. Right.
And it's so freeing when we can take those labels off and then understand what it really means too, because introversion doesn't mean you don't like people. It means for some people it might, but for me it meant I just need a lot of time to recharge. Like I love being around people and I love interacting with people. And I also know that it's going to come with a lot of downtime after. And that's fine, right? That's just how I recharge my batteries.
Having that time to recharge, and I think it's also finding being selective almost too. Not being it in a mean way, we're kind, we try to be nice to everybody and respectful, but it's also just if I am going to spend time with people, I make sure that it's with the ones that I know that we have things in common and that I know that it's going to be a positive experience as much as I
Yeah.
can.
Yes. And what you just said, you're dropping so much wisdom in this episode. I think that takes people, for me, it took me a really long time to realize that my time was sacred. And
Mm.
like you said, because I'm an introvert, it's pockets, right? Like it's small pockets that I allow myself to go out and be with people in the world. And so if I'm going to do that in just these small intentional ways, I really want it to be with people, like you said, that I know are going to fill me up and like they're my people and we're aligned versus wasting that time. And to me, it is. To me, that's what it feels like. It's just, I don't want to waste time socializing and expending that energy when I know it's not my people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what about kind of those limitations that other people may have presented to you? Did you feel like other people limited you or put an idea in your head about what you could or couldn't do?
Yes, that was something I've had a lot of people try to do. I can remember when I was deciding what am I going to do after high school. I knew that I wanted to go to college and I wasn't naive that it was going to be a challenge for me. I definitely understood that. And I was scared myself, but I looked at things at a technical school and it just none of those careers were right for me. And I can remember my learning support teacher didn't think I could handle going to college. She said, I think you should go to a technical school while you're in high school. And I just didn't feel like they aligned with what I could do or what I was interested in. I also had a psychiatrist who told me that they didn't think I would be able to go beyond community college. And that was really discouraging for me because had that dream in my mind someday in the future. Maybe I would want to go get my bachelor's degree or go beyond that. So that was really difficult. And then when I got to community college, I had a professor who told me that I would most likely not go beyond, or excuse me, she told me I wouldn't be able to get the job that I wanted because of my math disability. So that was really hard for me to be able to do that. And it was just breaking through a lot of those barriers and just doing that, breaking through a lot of stigma. And then I can remember even after I was out of community college and I went back, got my bachelor's degree, and I thought, okay, maybe I would want to give grad school a try. Or I also had to go for another evaluation just to get paratransit service because I'm unable to drive because of my disability. And I had one of the questions on there was, what's something that you would like to do someday? Your dream job. So I put down all these things I wanted to do. I thought, okay, I want to do news reports. I want to help people. And I can remember one of the notes on my eval was, we just eliminated those job choices because she wouldn't be able to handle doing all those things. And
Whoa.
I look back on this now and I'm able to have a blog. I'm able to do photography. There's a lot that I can do. And there's some things I simply can't do too. I also run into the camp where people don't want to limit me. People look at me and say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You should be able to do all these things. All you
Yep.
have to do is try. And either extreme never really gets me anywhere. And both of them really frustrate me, and I don't feel that it really is helpful or beneficial when people either think I can't do something at all or anything because of it, or I can do anything because that's just too opposite and just too extreme.
You hit on something that I think is so prevalent in our society. We live in this dualistic world where we were taught we have to choose between one or the other, right? It's right or it's wrong. And
Right.
I believe, and I think more people are starting to open their minds to the power of the word and how and can be a great equalizer. We don't have to polarize ourselves between these two things. We can say, yeah, some things are going to be difficult for me. And I just have to explain to people, right? Because, like you said, they might not visually be able to understand exactly why that's challenging. And so, knowing that, like, that's just the truth, right? That's the reality of things. And also, I'm much bigger and more and capable than what other people are just trying to put me in this box of. But if you can take kind of parts from both of those and bring them into the middle, it sounds like that's what you're saying is that's the space that you're really thriving in.
Because what I try to focus on is my strengths. And my dad has talked about this too. When I was in school, there was a lot of people who thought you should be in AP biology or AP science or classes. And I'm like, I can't do that with the math. I might have been able to do that with the English, but I don't think that was the best choice for me. I needed to get a good foundation for what I was doing and boost the confidence and being able to make honor roll. So my dad said, we set you up for success. We knew that giving you advanced placement classes was probably not, was going to frustrate you, wasn't really going to serve you. So we just decided we're going to give you academic level courses and learning support in math as I needed it. And I think as an adult too, I set myself up for things that I want to do that I know that I can be successful at. I know when I go into a course of study, I can be really successful in one of my classes as long as it does not involve math. When I encounter a math or a science class, those are going to be the ones I'm going to be really challenged at. And I know I'm going to have to definitely use all the accommodations. I'm going to have to use the tutoring center. And I'm also going to have to find a professor that's really understanding. Another thing that is something that is really challenging and is impossible for me, not visually, but within my brain, is driving. I am able to see things normally, but it's really hard for me to coordinate my body and my visual perception is off, how my brain will perceive objects and reaction time. So that for me, that was a choice to not do that. And but I also have to also think about the things that I can do and I really enjoy doing. I love to read. I love to write. And that sets me up for success. That is something that I can do and that brings me enjoyment. And another thing with the not driving though is I I love to take pictures of flowers when I'm on my walks. And I people will tell me you bring out the details in a flower that I would other people will miss. So I get that chance to literally stop and smell the roses and relax and notice all those details that if I was driving, that's something I would miss. And I just think that everybody, to a certain extent, whether they have a disability or not, does tends to do things in their free time and maybe in their professional life that they're good at. If you're not good with reading or writing, I don't know if you'd want to really pursue that outside of what you have to do in your job. If you're not great at art, I don't see a lot of people that want to go and create art projects. And I think that is just that it shouldn't be any different for a person with a disability either.
I feel like you had so many lessons come your way that you were able to work through and navigate that I think sometimes it takes other people so much longer to try to unravel
Mhm.
some of those things. And that is exciting to me for you, right? That you were able to untie some of those knots and figure that out because you had to. And I think that's what I have found in this space with grief and loss is that when you're presented with some of the most challenging times of your life, it really does feel like there's two paths that start to emerge, right?
Yeah.
And it almost feels like life is saying to you, I've given you this huge challenge because you need to be going down this path. And this path is going to help you in so many ways that you can't see yet.
Yep.
But always when I can look back and I see
Mhm.
connect all the dots. You can connect all the dots when you look back and you can see exactly why you had to go through each of those steps because it led you to be where you are today.
Yep.
And you seem like you've just the way that you're articulating this is you had that right in front of you and you just were able to power through those things. For me, it took like just a lot of different life events at different times in my life to finally get that message and that lesson. But focusing on your strengths, I think it really builds that confidence, right? Because I know those areas when it's not what you're strong at, but yet you're fighting against it. You're fighting against it. You're like, I got to get this. I
Mhm.
got to get this. And it's just not coming naturally to you. It just really messes with your confidence. And it really starts to make you question so many other things too. And so I think that's so how you stated that focus on those things first, right? And then if you can stretch yourself into those other areas that aren't as strong, or you just need to find other resources or help, whatever that looks like. That's the epitome of really loving your whole self to me. And it's really understanding that it's not about dismissing or hiding away the parts of ourselves that aren't as strong. It's understanding that's part of all of us and love those parts that you're strong in and appreciate the parts that you're not. And just know that you don't have to be 100% at everything. Like, that's really difficult, and I think sometimes when we try to do that, there's this perfectionism thing that we get into, and it's like, we're not perfect people, like, we were never meant to be perfect, it's an unattainable standard. We have a whole bunch of strengths, and there's some things that just aren't as strong for us, and that's okay, and we love all of ourselves, and we're just going to lean on other people and resources to help us in those areas that we just need to be lifted up a little bit.
Exactly.
That's beautiful, right? That feels just such an honest, authentic way to live, and it's yeah, like, it's cool. I'm terrible at technology. Like, honestly, like, it's like it all gets Googled up in my mind. Like, I can't just even, like, simple things like emails and setting up emails and filters, all, like, to what it's simple to other people, it's just not to me. And
Because
so
everybody has something, yeah, that might be say, "That's easy. That's easy for you," but then that might be something that's a challenge for another person.
exactly, and that's exactly it. My fiancé is a math professor,
Right.
and he's really good at technology, and so when he looks at something, his brain just the way his brain operates, it's easy. It really does come very easy for him, and I'm just
Mhm.
like but I have a lot of strengths that come easy for me that don't for him. And that's what makes the world so beautiful to me. It's just
Exactly.
everybody showing up with like different strengths and different innate talents, and all of us just leaning in and leaning on each other and learning from each other. Like, I think that's what we're supposed to do.
True.
Absolutely. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about really quick was you had an adversity that some would look at as an adversity with not being able to drive. And that could be, right? That could be something that could really impact somebody in terms of, like you said, frustration and just freedom and being able to just go as they want to. But the fact that you picked up on such a beautiful nugget within that is what I wanted to highlight. That because you couldn't drive and you were walking and you were taking these pictures and you learned the skill of photography and really having a keen eye for art, and like what a beautiful way to extract something from what other people may have said is like such a really frustrating thing to have to experience and to deal with. And not that you didn't express frustration, you may have felt that, but you didn't let that hold you down. And through that is something so beautiful that came from it.
Definitely, because that's something that was able to open my eyes up and to be able to see that beauty. Because there have been those moments where it has been frustrating. There's jobs that haven't worked out because either I couldn't get to the place or they involved driving, even though it wasn't in the description or you need to at least have a license. But what I started to realize was there is a lot of beautiful things. And this gives me a unique opportunity that I wouldn't have been able to take if I was behind the wheel. And I started to notice whenever I was in the car with my husband, I would say, "Did you see that?" And he'll be like, "No, I'm driving. And my eyes are on the road as they should be." And that just gives me that unique angle to be able to look at the world. And I love being able to do that.
I just love your spirit. Like your energy and your spirit is just so beautiful. And like I said, you feel like you've just handled these challenges really eloquently and really found the pieces that, didn't stop you, didn't hold you down, but even enhanced you and made you a better version of yourself because of it.
Yeah. So
So, in terms of the wisdom, you've shared a lot already. But if you could go back to that little girl when you were in kindergarten, you first learned about this disability, and you now know what would you say to that younger version of yourself?
I would like to reassure that everything is going to be okay because I can remember whenever I was really young, I thought that my life would have turned out how I wanted to. I thought it was always going to be really difficult. I thought that things were going to get better and oh, if I could just get rid of the disability, then everything would just fall into place. And I would love to tell that little girl that it's going to be all right. You're going to have success in your life. You're going to get through school. You're going to be able to get your degree. You're going to have a job. You're going to get married. You're going to have that lifelong dream of writing. And you're also going to have some other wonderful surprises that come along the way, too.
Yeah. Beautiful message for her to hear. And what would you say to other people? Because I think that's such an important part of this too. Like, what would you want to say to other people at that time?
I would also love to tell people the success doesn't always come in the package that you expect. Sometimes it comes in something even better. You might look at it and think, if I success looks like getting this, or success looks like this. And it may not always happen how you expect it, but there's always something that usually comes out of it and it's a lot better. And I would also encourage people that are in my situation with having a disability is first of all to know what you want. And after you know what you want to do, be able to find a way to be able to make those dreams happen.
And one last thing, I feel like I just have a zillion questions I want to ask you, but
Sure.
with the grief part of it, do you remember specifically allowing yourself to grieve kind of some of these losses that you were faced with as you were growing up and growing with this disability?
I think that what I can remember is when I really started to put writing to it, I would write about parts of that. And I can just look back on some of the going through a lot of those stages of grief, that the denial, thinking, oh, this isn't happening. It can't be me. The sadness then it sometimes weighed when I didn't do very good on a test or I was being picked on. The anger of having this, why did this happen to me? I can remember going through that. Even jealousy with that of my peers. I had peers that they seemed to be having an easy time with that. And I didn't realize that they struggle with things in their own lives too. And I think it was going through all those emotions and learning how to process them. And when I was a kid, a lot of people didn't really do the mental health part of it. We just thought you have a disability, just get over it, and this is your life. But it wasn't until I started to process all those feelings and all those emotions and finding different ways that I was able to come into acceptance with it.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing not only your story, but your heart. And like I said, so much wisdom. This was just such a
Mhm.
delightful conversation that I think so many people are going to see parts of themselves in it and also learn, right? Just learning and opening our minds to realizing that the beauty is how unique we are. And I really feel like that. Like we're all here with our own unique superpowers and gifts. And they don't always look like you said, it's not always in the same package, and that is
Mhm.
okay. And I think once we can really accept and understand that it's our uniqueness that we were brought here for to discover and to share with the world, stepping into that just feels like coming home. And
Yes.
that's really what I got from you today. So thank you for sharing your story, but with your heart too. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.